When we reimagine education, we must imagine it for everyone. Due to the onset of COVID-19 pandemic, we as a nation face hard challenges that how it disrupted society, especially those in the informal sector, by changing their livelihood, economy, and everyday life. There are people in our country who not only cannot afford a computer at home, don't have a laptop, or don't even necessarily have a mobile phone, but as under NEP, we have set a ambitious gross enrollment ratio 100% for secondary education by 2030. Definitely, this is the right time to brainstorm what we need to do to make futuristic schools. Taking the agenda forward, I welcome our esteemed panelists for the panel discussion, Education 2025, Reimagining Future Schools. I welcome our key speaker, Dr. Vikas Madhukar, Deputy Pro Vice Chancellor and Dean of Faculty of Management Studies, Amity University, Haryana. He is joined by Dr. Preeti Ojha, Principal, Delhi International School, Dwarka, Dr. Anuradha Govind, JM International School, Dwarka, Ms. Aba Sadana, Principal, The Modern School, ECNCR, Dr. Priya Srivastava, Principal, Euro Sector 109, Gurugram, and Dr. Sheetal Man, Principal, Modern Convent School, Delhi. I welcome each one of you to this panel discussion. Over to taking the discussion forward, I would request Dr. Vikas Madhukar to share his opening remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Sachinji. And once again, on behalf of Amity University, Haryana, on behalf of our Honorable Founder President, Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan, on behalf of our Honorable Chancellor, Dr. Asim Chauhan, our Vice Chancellor, Professor P.B. Sharma, I extend a very warm welcome to all esteemed panelists to Amity Academic Leadership Forum on the theme of Education 2025, Reimagining the Future School Education. As we have witnessed in last 1 year, there is a lot of uncertainty created due to current pandemic world over. And this pandemic has really compelled us to think about and rethink and reinvent about business model that can make our organization more resilient. It means that a year back, the various assumptions which various leaders they took world over with the sudden disruption of this pandemic, it is time to rethink on those assumptions and rebuild the future. When I think about the changes which has been taken place in last 1 year, I recall my college days in year 1998 when I was studying in Kurukshetra University and doing my MBA program. I came across with an article in Economic Time. The article titled "A Bank Without Banker." So really the theme of the article was quite fascinating, and I read that whole article where the agenda was that article talking about that there is a time, there is a future of banking where we'll find no banker in the banking sector. And this was something which was beyond imagination at a time when the internet was just introduced, the mobile phone was just introduced, and we were far behind from the technology innovation. But as now in 2021, when we look back and see how this technology has changed the environment, we find yes, it has become a reality now, not only in banking industry, but also all businesses across different sectors and industry. Now today, we have witnessed a long lockdown, and in lockdown, we realize that with a with a click of mouse or with a tap of finger on our smartphone, we can have and ordered anything and everything at our doorstep. And this is the power of technology. I would like to share 2 3 slides on this since I belong to management, and I would like to present it more strongly with the help of few example. These are the few names which are appearing on our screen, and we all are quite familiar, aware, and using the product and services of these companies, whether it is Oyo, YouTube, Urban Clap, or Uber. Do you know which one thing is common among these four companies? The one thing which is common among these four companies is none of them own their product or services. It is only the technological platform which they have provided to the user and client, and now they have been recognized the top companies in the country, in the world. Moving forward to the next slide, these are the name of few companies which did not exist in 2006. And just imagine, now these names are placed in Fortune 500 list. Overall, when we look back and see the business scenario, we feel that it is the technological innovation which has changed the basic paradigm in business and management. And education sector is not an exception to this. When we look back 1 year before in pre-COVID time, we find that we were little hesitant as far as technology adoption was concerned in education. Although it was long back when ICT integration in our country was started, and my friend Sachin Juneja is witness to that, when they have installed 100 of smart board through Educom in various schools. But that was only limited to few elite schools. This pandemic, the one thing this pandemic has given us, this pandemic has taught us the adoption of technology, the integration of technology. To look at the education 2025, reimagining the future schools, there are a few bullet points I would like to highlight for the panelists to take the discussion further. When we talk about future, the future is being seen not only in context of technological innovation, but also in context of changes which the new education policy is going to bring in, where new curricular and pedagogical structure focus on experiential learning, wider flexibility, no rigid boundaries of domain with an integrated approach. So where we look forward that there is going to be an integration between various subject domain, right from arts to science to social science to humanities. The focus is going to be on excellence of every child and helping them develop skills and awareness that go beyond what they need simply to find work. The focus is going to be on holistic development of our children. The new education policy has already stated this agenda by way of introducing vocational education right from the class 6. The schools, they are required to look forward to invest in both recruiting and helping top talent become effective teacher. They need to devise the ways of developing their people in terms of integrating and training them, particularly in usage of technology. Accelerate new models of learning and innovate beyond the classroom. Smart adaptive technology program that integrate instruction, practice, feedback to allow students to work on their own pace. Reform in assessment and better tools to help each student succeed and driving desired outcome. Blended learning model, technology adoption and integration. So what I personally feel, although the technology is going to play an important role in education over the next few years, but the technology is something which is not going to eliminate or replace the traditional brick and mortar teaching, because it is not only the interaction between a teacher and a student which is important, but there is a peer learning, and there are not many things which our children they learn while they are studying in school. Before I finish my presentation, I would like to highlight that how the technology is important not only in terms of taking classes online. The technology is important in terms of a lot of processes in schools, where this particular slide is talking about uh, the the distribution of teacher work, where the study has been conducted in context of Canada, Singapore, United Kingdom, and United States. And it states that the only 49% of teachers' time is in direct interaction with the student. And how we can meaningful save the time of a teacher, and that time can be utilized, where the technology can help a teachers reallocate 20 to 30% of their time towards activity that support learning. So in this way, the time saved by a teacher can be more utilized in mentoring the student and in interacting with the student. I finish with that while the greater use of technology in education may be inevitable, but the technology will never replace a great teacher. In fact, a single teacher can change a student trajectory. Thank you.
That's so rightly mentioned, Dr. Madhukar, about the next innovation model that we all need to adopt to bring the revolutionary change. Amazing, very nice. Uh, Taking the discussion forward, my first question goes to Dr. Preeti. Ma'am, if you can share out some biggest challenges that current our education system is facing.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sachin. Good afternoon, Dr. Madhukar. It was a
Good afternoon.
delight to hear you, sir, with those wonderful slides. And I'm very grateful to share this platform with such wonderful principals, and few of them from Dwarka itself. So I am wanting to share more than what Mr. Sachin has asked me just now, because I think that's one of the withdrawal symptoms we all are going through during this lockdown period. But I'll keep it very brief. The biggest challenge that the teacher, especially to begin with, in an education system, because she's the whole soul in charge for disseminating what exactly a school need to share with the student, is the nuances of technology. We may say we are connected with technology, we are totally finding a way out to reach out to the children, but to what extent are we reaching out to the child? To what extent are we making that impact which is essential for the children to be connected with a teacher? The most important commodity of a teacher and a student relationship is the warmth of knowing and understanding, and that relationship building, which is cut down and only 30 minutes in the pre-primary section of connecting with the child, and then not having that online class further than that, as per the norms that we have received, which is rightly given to the school, makes a lot of discomfort for the teacher as well as for the family and for the children, to make sure how to orient them the roadmap for the curriculum throughout the year. So there is when we started with this online teaching, it was very difficult for us to, through that small window, to reach out to so many children and to understand what their need is, because every child had a different need, and nothing to do with the curriculum or with the information and knowledge, more to do with sustaining and sitting at that place was essential. Parents didn't have time, one, because they also started working after 29th of June. Then secondly, we found that the gadgets were lesser in number in the house. So if the father is using a gadget, the child couldn't use it, and then they had to share it. Thirdly, who sits with the child to supervise through this world of internet, which was very essential. We didn't wanted a child not to be with a parent or a guardian and keep working ahead. So this was one of the very mild, but looked at in the beginning a challenge, but now it has become a bigger challenge. Thirdly, the expectation of the parents is the same, what they wanted in the classroom, which is not possible. When you never told us that this is the time which is going to come and we are all ready with all the resources. So of course it was a trying time for the school, for the teacher, for the principal, for the community to adjust such kind of classes. And then we found that the biggest hurdle was when the time management was not taken place. We were working from morning 9 to 3, wherein we keep working throughout the day, but then interacting with the parent 24/7 was becoming essential, because counseling was another aspect which is coming up with a higher expectation from the parents. Please counsel us. Please counsel our child. Please counsel us that physical activities wouldn't take place. Please counsel that the moment while they're learning in the classroom in front of the window wouldn't happen. So these were the kind of challenges that we were dealing with. And then came up beautifully articulated NEP 2020, because this is something which is the need of the hour. It has come up with a lot of zeal and enthusiasm, but then the implementation again starts online to begin with, in the sense that we are now trying to get into hybrid and blended learning. We are trying to engage the children more the way it is required, with experiential learning, demonstrative method, online method of assessment, and various other aspects coming, which is a challenge for a teacher and an educational institute at any time, because we do not know when it is going to end. It is uncertain. The online assessment, is it the right way the assessment is taking place? Are children really and honestly appearing for the paper as they are expected? And do we do we ask them for a repaper? If they are not, will it be right in this situation? There are so many things which are coming together for the educationists, for us as a challenge, that we all are waiting and learning every day and reforming in our planner and in our execution. That is how I can put it forward, Dr. Sachin.
I think you have no exactly pinpoint each and every issue faced by a parent as well as the teacher in the given COVID situation, and I'm sure no, until unless it is not synergized between the parent and teacher and the student, the right outcome, it is very difficult to achieve. So I perfectly agree with you on this. I welcome Dr. Anuradha Govind, ma'am. Welcome to the panel. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, I've done that.
Great, great. How are you, ma'am?
I'm good.
I wish I could have started the session with a song. I saw your video long back. So, but due to paucity of time, maybe at the end of it. But having said that, as of now, would like to understand more from you about what's new as an innovation or a methodology that exists in the given times excites you, or maybe what's the new future aspect of the education you look forward to which can bring the right outcomes.
Definitely. That's what I would really love to answer, because mine is an experiential learning school and with an innovative curriculum. So there'll be some points which I'm doing, and we have seen the success of those implementations. I would love to share that. And before that, happy good afternoon to all the leaders who are present there from Amity University and from different schools, my colleagues. And picking up from Dr. Preeti's part, biggest challenge that we were talking about, of course, she deliberated, nicely about the online days and how it is going. But if we see the bigger picture, for the challenges of education system in India today, I would say that it is that education is not mapped with the competence or skills. Means education is being imparted, exams are being held, report cards are churning out, percentages are there, but somewhere one gets to see that skills are lacking or the competence is not building up, and which clearly reflects on employability also. Amity knows about it. I mean, you do your placements and all that. So how does it work, and how does it actually, escalate into jobs, and further, there is success in those fields. So keeping all that in mind, there has to be some change and innovation and methods which should be used in school. So one thing, if I talk about the underlying principles, one thing which we look at in our school is a backward planning model of curriculum. That first we would see what competencies we would like to build in children. And if we want to do this, then what kind of assessments will actually be able to assess that whether those skills have been built in children or not. So that kind of rubrics, and a complete K to 12 profile, which goes from nursery to, and each class teacher gives it to the next class teacher. So there's an entire file where you can track back and you can find out. So, and then based on that, the methodology and the teaching methods. Then you follow up and find out what is working, what's not, and you keep progressing and, you know, tweaking it regularly. And along with, of course, a lot of teacher training, in-house training, observation, feedback, follow-up. And with that, for the children, we believe in competition with self. So not competing with others. In fact, up to class 2, even positions are not given in the classes. So that's the time when they are being nurtured and they are developing. So we don't give a first, second, third. And even when there are competitions in school for, say, debate or recitation or any other kind of thing, theater or something, then there is a level. You know, if now your 4 children can also achieve that level A, and maybe nobody achieves that level. So if they achieve that level, it could be any number, or they could be at level B or level B plus or whatever. So it's not a clear first, second, third, and 3 children are going to get it, because there could be other children, you know, achieving it. And 100% participation of children in most of the things, whether it's a sports event or whether it's a theater thing. Just a minute, I'll just take a call and inform them that I'm in a session. Hello. All right. So that every child wins and no one loses in the class or in school. So everybody's strength is to be recognized, and then we have to build up on those strengths. And wherever the weaknesses are, teachers have to find it, they have to work on it, inform parents about it, tell them first that what are we doing about it and what results are we observing, and how should you become our partners. And believe me, if you do it, that's called Saath Saath in my school. And we do a lot of pooling in of parents in different processes, so that, you know, they are important counterparts. So without parents involvement, you can't achieve success. Dr. Preeti also mentioned it a lot while talking about online. So parental contribution is a must. So inspiration for parents and a lot of opportunities so that they can come in. Then, of course, experiential learning methods, where everything comes in. You know, children have learning outside classrooms and outside textbooks. Excursions are also mapped that way. So, like when we are doing history, you're taking children to Red Fort, Qutub Minar, and you are weaving a story, you know, out of it when you are doing history lessons and struggle for freedom. Just a minute. Hello, I'm in a session, I'll call you back. All right. So experiential learning, where I said excursions are also mapped in. And then there are other types of, for example, if I tell you, say, profit and loss. So in the class, a shop activity where some become customers and some becomes, you know, sellers, and then manufacturers. And then we show the complete lineup, discounts, and everything is worked on. And in that play where children do it, all the nuances which they have to learn, all the concepts are used,
Right.
you know, while doing that activity. And there are many of those
Right.
in every subject. Then some entrepreneurial projects, like if I tell you our grade 11 does it, we don't rope in grade 12 because of their board thing, but they form a company in school, a dummy company. And then how a company started. So all the rules of business studies and accounts go into it. And then they do, like last year, last to last, when school was going on, our children did corn salad and lemonade. So they used to make it and sell it during the lunchtime. And during dispersal time, there was a card designed and it was done at the school gate. And then, you know, all the accounting work and ledger maintenance and everything was done. And parents knew, so they also contributed to it. They all, and for summertime, everybody loved to have that fresh lemonade. And so with that project, they incurred some profit. And in our social responsibility program, I'm really happy to share that children bought a washing machine and we donated it to an orphanage which is nearby. And so that was a beautiful moment. And that picture also lies in my principal's office. So that's there. And other innovative practices I'll quickly take up. I know the positive time. So flip teaching has really brought wonderful results. So that engages children. And when they take classes, you know, and topics are taken up by children, then, you know, they own learning. When you prepare something to teach, you learn the best. So that's one. Many processes are shared. Children understand that what goes into teaching, and sometimes teachers also get a lot of great ideas from them when they
Right.
use different methods.
Right.
Another thing is theater in education, which we use a lot,
Right.
and newspaper in education, using case studies, integrating art into it, whether it's theater or music, like creating raps while doing mathematics, trigonometry. So these kinds of experiments are done in school. And then along with that, Global Connect. We do a lot of global video conferencing with different schools, across the globe. And what we discuss is the culture of different countries, value system. Sometimes the topics are like, how do we respect our elders and grandparents in different countries? How do we relate with them? So that gives a wonderful insight, to children from across the world, which makes them understand things in a better way. So perspective. And beyond that, because we want to see a beautiful world, and we want that change happening, that people feel happy about the things. So social responsibility, so that we can have people with integrity. So but the difference is, we just don't ask children to give some funds or arms or money, or we mostly ask them to give material, like say packets of biscuits or half kg rice or something, and
Right.
so that we can give it to orphanage. And beyond that, what important thing is, we want children to invest time with them. Like if they
Right.
go to old age home, they'll talk to them, they'll spend
Right.
some time, or I will send them to blind school, where they'll read for them, play with them, so that they can actually experience and empathize with them.
Sure.
And we would like them to own it for their whole life, that family,
Mhm.
that particular thing. So there are
Mhm.
many things, but I've tried to give you a
Right.
glimpse
Right.
of
I understand.
about what innovation we are
Right.
practicing, and many such
True.
things are required to change, our teaching learning.
That's so
Thank
exhaustive.
you.
In fact, a line of the things that you have shared upon, and thank you so much for this. Moving on to Abba, ma'am. No, India, we are no ruler as of now. No, no, a lot of villages. Another aspect is been there. So how to address no quality level in the rural education with respect to students and as well as to the faculty also.
I think you're very right, Mr. Junaida, when we are talking about India. What beautiful suggestions and ideas that ma'am, Dr. Anuradha has suggested, and Dr. Preeti has been, we all being in the country, being in the urban areas, we have been able to do it. We are blessed. We are lucky. But talking about, we're 65 to 70% of our population living in the regions where we don't even have access of the facilities what we are talking about. But we also know that a research was done by ASER. A fifth standard child in the rural school is not able to even read class 2
Exactly.
level textbook. So where are we leading to? The kind of a knowledge we are trying to impart to the students of rural India, it is so disconnected. They can't even understand,
Right.
because the authors of the books, so-called, they are in the scenario of cities. No doubt. Thank you to this change of new education policy. Thank you to all the academicians who are taking the calls now. The changes are coming. We are looking forward to many, many positive things going to come up. Well, what we can think of in my own ways is the topmost priority is we need to have more schools. Even now, we just visited Meghalaya. I happened to get the chance to go to very remote areas of India. Even now, the students are walking for 4 to 5 miles minimum for their education. Girls, they're not even going. So it means the need for more schools. But what about schools? What about the teachers? The need for the teachers. Who all are ready to go and teach in these remote areas? That is the second point that we need to work on. I will just take an example that there are countries jahan pe, when you do your medicine degree, you have to do the internship for at least 2 years in the remote areas of the country. So maybe हम अपनी B.Ed degree के साथ में ये भी एक mandate रख सकते हैं that they do these kind of practices. But now the teachers, क्या वो trained हैं? जैसे प्रीति मैम ने बोला कि because of this COVID, overnight हमारे teachers को equip होना पड़ा. और यदि मेरे से पूछो तो even cities में government school के teachers, उन बेचारों के पास क्या वो उतनी डिवाइसेस, और बच्चों के पास भी क्या वो डिवाइसेस थी? Forget about the rural areas. So here it comes. This is going to stay, COVID or no COVID. We have to bring a change in our education, जो कि आपने भी हमारे डॉक्टर विकास ने जो बहुत अच्छी तरह से बोला कि flip teaching, blended learning. I will use the term flexible learning. What is flexible learning? At any pace, at any time, to any student of any age. Very beautifully said, brick and mortar cannot be replaced. I totally agree with that. But मैं यहाँ पे ये भी बोलूँगी, यही brick and mortar which was introduced by Britishers to some extent, it caged education into the brick and mortars, into the classrooms. वहीं से ही हो गया कि सिर्फ टेक्स्ट बुक्स को ही पढ़ाना है हमने शायद. But अब for the last 20-25 years, I should be saying, or schools like our school, जैसे अनुराधा मैम ने भी बताया, right, we are trying to bring in the change. That is what is needed. So even in the rural areas, that will be the need. Giving training to the teachers, looking at the needs of the students. So designing the books or maybe the curriculum by the teacher to teach those concepts in the class. That will be the next thing. Right. The third will be, if you ask me in the rural areas, we have to go beyond our textbooks. So it means experiential learning. यदि मैं आपसे पूछूं, मेरे रूरल इंडिया में या इवन अर्बन सिटीज में यदि हम पढ़ा रहे होते तो आपको नहीं लगता कि हमारे हर घर में नेचुरल फार्म्स होते, हमारे हर घर में एनर्जी प्रोड्यूसर्स होते, हम लोग सोलर एनर्जी को यूज करते? यदि हमने एक्सपीरियंशियल टीचिंग करवाई हुई होती, बच्चों से वो मॉडल्स बनवाए होते, एंड सेम इज द केस इन रूरल इंडिया. वेस्ट मैनेजर्स बने हुए होते हमारे सब बच्चे, अर्बन फॉरेस्ट्स बने हुए थे हमारे घरों के अंदर छोटे छोटे. सो दिस इज व्हाट द चेंज, overhauling of everything, and I'm sure in the rural India that is the need of the thing.
Perfect.
सर एक चीज मैं और बोलूंगी, यदि हमने टीचर्स के लिए मुश्किल है वहां पे भेजना अच्छे टीचर्स को, मैं समझ सकती हूँ, तो मे बी we pay them high. Teachers deserve to get higher salaries, as we see in so many of the Western countries, right? The other teachers are the highest paid. But unfortunately, India में इसकी भी जरूरत है करने के लिए, because these are the nation builders. We should not even forget about it. एक बहुत अच्छा और मेरे को लगा कि इंटरनेट, thank you to the present government, they are trying to electrify the entire country and also bringing in internet. मैं तो ये कहूँगी सर, फ्री इंटरनेट क्यों नहीं मिलेगा मेरे हर बच्चे को? फ्री इलेक्ट्रिसिटी नहीं भी दे सकते, फ्री इंटरनेट हम जरूर दे सकते हैं सर. और यदि मैंने एक फ्री इंटरनेट दे दिया, so it means I'm able to reach out to every child's home. Nobody can stop my child to learn. चलो माना कि इंटरनेट नहीं दे सकते. What do we say? That we have the offline tablets and every child has been provided with, ताकि nobody can stop them. So these are a few suggestions. There is a limitless things that I would
Absolutely.
I'd like to speak, but as you say, if I have more time, I'll keep
This
on.
is
Others I'll stop.
for sure. No, definitely. I'll come up to you for the next round of set of questions. But move to
Can I?
ma'am. Just let's complete the first round up, and then probably I'll take up. And I'm keenly to take up all the views of our esteemed panelists. So taking it further to Dr. Divya ma'am. Ma'am, what do you think that knowledge, skills, attributes do our student needs to thrive in this competitive world?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Priya Srivastava, principal of Euro 109, Gurugram. And really, it's my pleasure to be the part of this discussion, which I found it very interesting when I heard Dr. Abha, Dr. Preeti, and Dr. Anuradha. They were coming up with such innovative ideas. And since your question was the knowledge on skills or attributes, do our students need to thrive in this complex world? Sir, before giving you the what are the skills, I just wanted to roll up back, like as we all are the educators, right? So we constantly strive to prepare our students for the real world. We are preparing our students for the real world, which already exists around them. We teach them how to read, we teach them how to write, we also teach them how to calculate the things. Now, going back 20 years back, say, do our educators were aware that what type of education will be there after 20 years? Were they aware that whether computer knowledge is essential, whether any sort of computer things or some technology will be there? But still, they were imparting the education, they were giving the education, they were training the students very well just to meet whatever is required for their future. And they were doing the very best part of that. So even right now, we all are sitting here right now, what will going to happen in future? We are discussing, but we don't know exactly what will going to happen in future. But still, we are nurturing our students. We are coming up with number of things. We are coming up to the technology. We are imparting education, just keeping in mind what will going to happen the moment the students are kids, those who are in nursery standards right now, once they will be moving out of the school, what all things is required. So it means that we are developing our student globally. And to develop our student globally, what all things is required, what we think is required, the very first thing is the critical thinking and the problem solving. Now, what do we mean by the critical thinking? See, all the students, they need to develop their skill and seeking their problems from different angles. Like suppose if we have given any question to any student, let them strive to it. Let them come up with the answers. Let them think the question in different angles. And when the moment they will come up with some of the other answers, definitely it means that they are formulating their own solutions. And by this, they can strive to this complex world. This is my first input, that is a critical thinking and the problem solving. Moving up to the second part, I think it is the adaptability. See, people previously, or you can say our ancestors, our parents, they were very much stubborn, right? Also, the people, those who are above 60 or whatever, 50s in age, they are a little bit stubborn. But now, what changes we are observing in the students, that they are adapting the situation. They are adapting the change. They want to say, okay, yes, now this is the new thing, I must adapt that thing. So yeah, the ego, that thing is not there, and it shouldn't be there if we want to have our students to strive very good in future, or to strive the education also in future. Second comes the entrepreneur skills. Yes, definitely. As we have heard about the word Generation Z. Previously in the Generation Z, like suppose if I'm talking about myself, our kids, they are saying, okay, mama, you know what computer is, you know how to play this thing, you know how to do this thing. Why? Because we were not being trained at that time. And in our age, these type of things were not there. Though with the change of time, people are picking up all those things. But with the Gen Z, what we have noticed, all the children, they have got their focus. They are very much focused in their career. They know what they have to do even at the age of 10 or 12. we were not aware. Our parents were saying, okay, you have to study. We people were studying. We were mugging up the things. We were doing the whatever was being asked to do. But right now, students are very much focused, which is required to strive in this complex world. Next, I think it is the effective oral and the written communication. People, whatever they are being saying, whatever they are speaking, whatever they are writing now, they should be very much focused and to the point, so that they can convince the rest of the world, whatever, this is my conclusion, this is what we are just imparting to the world. Let's see how the things will be shaped up.
That's
Next
right.
is the, and next is the curiosity and the imagination. See, what I have seen when I was in my childhood, we people were curious, but not up to that level. What I'm noticing as a principal now, even a nursery class student is very much curious. Whenever, if we are doing certain experiments, we are doing some of the other activities in the classroom, children, they are asking why, when, what. These things were not there when we were the kid. So what I think that if we have to strive to this forward, then definitely this curiosity, this imagination should be there in a particular person. Then only we can move forward.
Right.
All of us, in a classroom, one teacher is there, different students are also there. Their liking must not be the same for the same thing. Some of them may like something, some of them may not like something.
Ma'am, you're muted.
So can you hear me now?
Yeah, please. Yeah, please.
Sorry. So the next thing is that now those students, the teachers, those who are there in the classroom, they have to know, they have to keep in mind that what all is the liking and what all are the disliking of a particular person or a particular student, and he or she should train the child in that particular area. Means nurturing is very much important, and it has to be very much focused, keeping in mind what likes and dislikes the person is having. So in that particular case, keeping these are what I think these are some of the attributes or some of the points which I think skills must be there in a student to thrive in this complex world. Thank you so much.
So rightly mentioned, Dr. Priya, about it. I think the time has come. I think we all need to place the right attention towards it. So aptly mentioned, ma'am. Over to Dr. Sheetal. Ma'am, as right now the conclusion and something discussion is coming around the quality of teachers. So what according to you, should we, or who will be a great teacher, after experiencing COVID-19 situation? Dr. Sheetal.
Yeah, first of all, a very good afternoon to all the panel members. It's my pleasure to share a platform with all of you, as Anuradha ma'am rightly and Preeti ma'am rightly said, with distinguished principals from Dwarka itself. So it's a pleasant experience. So see, right now, I believe that the foremost challenge that the teachers have in front of them, I mean, I would, and I think everybody would agree with me when I say that as far as all the stakeholders are concerned, teachers are the base of my pyramid who are holding my school together. No matter how much you invest in your infrastructure, no matter how much you invest in anything, unless and until you have a group of teachers who are well equipped to carry forth the pedagogy, there is nothing which can substitute them. But at the same time, and in this present scenario, what I firmly believe is that we should be talking about the mental well-being of the teachers as far as their dissemination of education is concerned, their pedagogies are concerned. I mean, it's amazing how they had adapted during the last 1 year when initially the lockdown came into place. Teachers who were even scared to make an Excel sheet were actually working on Zoom. Teachers who were, in probably at the verge of retiring, or teachers who were into their 50s. Now, if I see their classes, they're doing so well. So as far as the knowledge of the teachers are concerned, or the pedagogy is concerned, I'm not that concerned. But what is my most concern is that these teachers have to be emotionally, they are under a lot of stress. They are working from home. At a single point of time, there is a mother, there is a wife, there is a caretaker of the whole family who has an added responsibility of also working. When they used to come to the school, they were primarily focusing on one aspect. And as one of the panelists had also rightly said, there is also this importance where we have to be in touch with the parents now at a longer duration. It doesn't stop at 2 o'clock or on an odd Saturday when they're supposed to meet us. So the primary challenges that the teachers have, or what we as administrators should be working on, is improving or giving the teachers the right kind of EQ, so that they can further go and provide the same atmosphere to the children as well. So there are many things which have happened in the past, and many opportunities that we have got. So as administrators, this is, I think, something that we should be looking into for the teachers.
That's absolutely right, ma'am. Bringing the closer of the first round, probably I'll take up the next one with Dr. Madhukar. Sir, as you are into, you're taking care of incubation center as well, ESOL initiatives at the campus. No, things are changing very fast. Even in fact, after COVID-19, there are new avenues of career opportunities which have cropped up. So, what do you think? Will be the requirement, for one to stay in this competitive world? The skills. Sir, please unmute.
See, as far as the present situation is concerned, and as we're talking about our agenda with regard to future of school education, see, I look at this particular issue from two perspectives. One, from the immediate perspective, when we are making a plan keeping in mind the current pandemic situation, and we all know that this pandemic situation is not going to last for a longer period. It is not that the situation is going to be the same for future. So one thing is sure, because I have listened to many of my esteemed panelists. They were talking about that it is difficult to predict the future, and future, we don't know what is going to happen in future. And it is true that we cannot exactly predict at this time that what the future would be, but certainly we can have certain assumptions about the various things and we can make a plan. So my one submission is to all of you that yes, of course, we cannot predict the future, but we can have some premises, some planning premises, some assumptions, and based on those assumptions we can plan future and we can minimize the uncertainty. This is one thing. The second thing is looking the future school education from a broader perspective, keeping this COVID situation away, and then we see that actually what exactly we are looking forward in terms of school education in 2025 or even beyond 2025, right? See, we all have been talking about the various activities we have been doing. We're talking about the curriculum, we're talking about pedagogy, we're talking about flexibility, we are talking about blended learning, we are talking about flipped classroom, and many more things, right? I know each of the elite school is doing all these things, right? Because yes, we have resources and we have an access of doing all these things. But one important thing which I feel in this regard is understanding the student aspirations, which I believe is very, very important. So what is our mechanism to understand the student aspiration? Why I am not directly coming to the answer of the question you have asked, because I am just taking you a little back and wanted to take to there where the entrepreneurship come into the picture. So it is very important, my view, it is very important that we should have a mechanism in our school education where we should be able to understand the aspirations and dream of our student. And one of the speakers had mentioned that yes, the different student, because they belong to different background, different family, they have a different set of attributes, they have different set of mindset, they have they have a different set of altogether a different personality. So at what level we have a different wing in class, at what level we are getting into this process of understanding student aspirations so that the next step can be planned accordingly. I give an example. My son is in class 12. He is studying in Amity International School. And I remember when he was in 8th class, I was just chatting with him. And I said that, okay, you just tell me what you want to be in, what do you want to do after your 10th or 12th? So would you like to be an engineer or what? And the answer he gave to me, I was really surprised because, rightly, Dr. Priya had mentioned that when we were in our childhood, we have never thought, like we didn't think from that perspective. And you all will be surprised to listen this answer. He said that, Papa, I want to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
He said that I want to have my own startup. Now just imagine a student who is in class 8, right? He has a very clear mindset that what he want to do. And it is not a surprise to me that, after that, he has involved himself in such type of activity. In the last one year, even in the time of pandemic, he had participated in so many hackathon, so many competition. The last competition he participated in Amity Noida, the youth festival, where there were around 40 participant university. And he stood third position in that competition by giving an idea of developing an app. Right. So, when we're talking about entrepreneurship is something, one aspect of entrepreneurship that it comes out within a student. Right. So first, it is very important that we should be able to identify the aspirations of student. We should be able to identify the intent of student, and then we can take that student in that direction. Now, I have been observing that many schools, they have already recognized the importance of this particular initiative of entrepreneurship. And the school also, they have organizing many competition, many hackathon, many business idea, and where they are motivating and prompting their student so that they can opt entrepreneurship as a career. Because many of them, I meet a number of students. Many of students, they when they come to me, they say, sir, I want to start a business, but I don't know how to do it. Or I want to start a business, but I don't have an idea. So where, the mentoring role starts, where we, really mentor that particular student. We help that student in identifying, we make him understand, like, this is a process, or this is a way the student can think and identify a problem. So
Right.
Thank you.
Right. Absolutely, Dr. Madhukar. In fact, the entrepreneurship, if we inculcate at the school level, I'm very sure no, there would be better outcomes. Coming to Dr. Preeti, for the same, I think there is another aspect to touch upon in this discussion. We generally say education for everyone, easy to say and difficult to implement. COVID itself has shown us how difficult it is for a teacher. At least here all are sitting are our good reputed school, we're having great infrastructure, but deep down in the rural thoughts, everything it was a little tough. So Dr. Preeti, knowing the challenges, what according to you solution for this issue is?
I couldn't get half of your question in the beginning. If you could please repeat a little.
Okay, so my query is, education for everyone is been the discussion all the time, but COVID has shown us the reality
Yes,
that no,
yes,
we are
yes.
not fit or right, we don't have that infra in the place. So knowing we have these challenges, so what is the solution now for this
Yes,
issue?
sir. Yeah, it's a very pertinent question that you have asked me, because this is the trying time, and this is what the lockdown has told us, that stop making an individual structure. If I am in a profile of a principal, I should know very quickly if a diverse condition comes in my life to convert myself into a chef. I
Right.
should know how to move from one profile to another profile with the very important and basic instincts to survive in the school life, other than facts and knowledge. In fact, I would like to bring a small pinch of information out here, that online teaching is also going hand to hand only with facts, knowledge, and what is there in the textbook at the moment. We haven't yet evolved within this 1 year of going ahead with experiential learning, that we call yet, because experiential learning, as all my learned colleagues know over here, is a very prominent form of reflecting on your own experience. So if I am teaching a child to become a tailor, the child has to be given a time to stitch a frock, reflect the size and the design, analyze upon it, and then come to a teacher or to a person who is assessing, where the teacher has to be very carefully letting the child know that there is nothing wrong in it. There is no set rules of making a kind of a frock, and there is no perfect way of making one frock. To evolving a teacher to this level in itself, I'm talking about an individual child. Every school, I'm sure, is having more than 2,000 children capacity in their school, and then through that window reaching to 40 children in 40 minutes or 30 minutes and telling them what exactly they need to do and teaching them everything, competing them in every college, getting them through the university, getting them a degree. And then what if another corona comes up? Then what if another pandemic comes up? Are we ready to move out of this chair and this comfort room and go out and do something which will help us to survive with same enthusiasm in which I was working earlier? That is the need that I think that we need to bring into the education style of teaching in our schools, which is very easy. You know, if you look at a bigger picture, people may say that government will bring it. You know, the percentage of entry in the colleges should be minimum so that the children should get the entry. The pressure of 12th should be little lower. 10th and 12th both should convert into a different kind of an assessment exam. You know, there can be a various kinds of ways that we want, but I'll tell you that every child from the age group, I'm not sure, I don't remember the age exactly, but 11-year-old child could make a small robot car in the school and said that he wants to sell one to children. So that's the kind of an entrepreneur skill, and only skill that a teacher can teach, that what is profit, what is planning, and what's a policy. I think beyond that, everything is in the hand of the child. So I feel that unstructure the child from the clutches of a degree, make the child open to know and learn everything that they're acquiring from the environment, assess them with the basic level of elements required in school, and allow them to go ahead by doing what they want to do, by giving dignity of labor in our country. You know, the harshness of the country is that if I am a transport in charge or if I'm a driver, I will not be given that dignity of labor of what given to an IAS officer. That's the only dilemma. You know, because in case that is covered with the society and the expectation of the parents, I think each individual will be sailing in a very comfort zone of their own skills to compete with. This is what I feel as a structure of education. I hope I am able to reach out to all my panelists and to Dr. Madhukar, but this is what I feel education should bring in to break the structure of conditioning of a child.
Right. So probably, as we got an understanding, vocational skilling should be the more prominent part, is one thing that you are recommending. Is it so?
Yes, I think that vocational skilling coming to 6 to 8 is a huge breakthrough for all the children to get a certification for it. And
Absolutely.
if in case they want to drop out after 10th standard and come back in 11th standard, they can earn something through that vocational skill. This will help them to empower their future academics and future loans that the parents need to pick up, and to know whether they can bring in something back to home for recovering from the debts.
True. Perfect. Dr. Anuradha, no, taking this discussion, carry forward about, NEP has set a 50% gross enrollment for higher education and 100% in fact for the secondary education. I think so. This cannot be achieved without the good quality teachers. So, what according to you would be the pinpoints for the right faculty development training programs? So, we understand that training programs are required, but what according to you the content we should teach in those faculty development training programs, so that we have a good set of quality teachers, addressing, as Abha ma'am has rightly mentioned about the rural education settings and all that. So, what should be the content?
I'm the advocator of, turning all theory into practice, a lot of it, and experiential. That's how I look at revamping of our textbooks, not only at school level, but please at college and university level as well, because it's all, I feel it's all mundane and it's all age old. What we read, I mean, children are reading the same books
Sorry,
and saying,
sorry to add up. Then I would like to invite you to Amity University Gurugram. In fact, to all our panelists, I would love to show you how we at Amity are bringing up the success stories and case studies around the experiential learning case studies and all that. So
that's wonderful. Yeah, I know about Amity because many of my good teachers have done their B.Eds from Amity, and that's how it's in my mind that if she's done it from Amity, she must be good. And we get to see when we see the their teaching demo and everything. So
please,
kudos there, of course. I
please,
have
please.
an idea of that. So revamping of B.Ed, the way I think you have taken some of the insights from what was going wrong with it, and you have changed the way you are teaching your teachers. So rather than, again, cramming those definitions and theories and quotes and all in the B.Eds, I think they have to in detail talk about when we expect gender sensitivity in the class, happiness in the school climate, competence based education, then all of it, how to map it, with the concepts, and how to link the things, how to create worksheets which infuse thinking abilities in children. So they have to have hands-on work during B.Ed, doing this. And B.Ed cannot be a one-year program. It has to be an extensive, good 3-year program with a lot of training in school. And it was a very good suggestion by Abhaji, and I would love it if it happens that for 2 years, like doctors, and like in some of the corporates like HUL, they have their customer insight and they want to ask them to work, they ask them to work in town B, C and villages also to find out the customer insight. So in the same way, working in the villages and giving your services as a teacher, and at ground level, seeing that with those, minimal things available, how do you turn your classroom into magic? So if a teacher comes, then, the village gets the good teachers, and teachers in turn get wonderful experience. So that's how our B.Eds and our textbooks to be revamped. That's one. Now coming to training, in-service training. I mean, so but these days CBSE is really doing a magnificent job in that. Online trainings are happening like never before. I'm conducting many of them myself, and I would be completing 60 or 70 odd trainings by tomorrow. I have two. So many of our principals are conducting it. So that's going on. And but here I have to say one thing, that outside trainings may help, and there should be plenty of them. But after the training, any training from outside, first of all, in the school, the teachers who have attended should discuss it with the other teachers. So there has to be that brainstorming. Schools should be documenting it, that what have been the learnings from that training. Then there has to be an action plan of the good points which have come up. Maybe that school is not doing it so far, and you have liked something in the training. So will it actually be used? And then what is the outcome? And then following it up and making it better. That's another thing. And besides that, I feel that till the time in-house training does not happen all the time, even the outside training will not help. So the culture for exploration is to be, given in school. Is to be created in school by the heads and all the people, who are in that capacity, whether it's a headmistress or principal or vice principal. So all of them have to create that culture in school, that there is brainstorming, there is exploration, there is observation in the classrooms, and the feedbacks are given to teacher. And on an ongoing basis, whether you take the meeting of a department, say subject wise or, segment wise, but giving them new methods and giving them demos, learning from each other also happening. So if we have the delight and joy in that kind of learning from each other in-house also, and I'm sure our teachers will be able to take pride and they'll be inspired teachers.
This is something very interesting point has been recommended by our esteemed panelist about the B.Ed. Because me being into marketing and sales, we know about B.Ed, and probably we all would be knowing that. So I think this is very appropriately mentioned about ensuring the right quality set of B.Ed candidates cropping up, and then learning for them is happening in a right fashion. Perfect, perfect, ma'am. And next, I would like to ask Dr. Priya about what are the key areas of innovation that will help the next generation to be a future leader? And accordingly, probably I'll take up the next question with Dr. Sheetal on the same. But first, Dr. Priya. Dr. Priya? Yeah, please unmute yourself.
It's unmuted, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect, perfect. So on a quick note, key areas of innovation.
Yeah. Yes, sir. This key area of innovation. So before giving the answer to this question, I just want to roll up a little bit. See, first of all, I just want to bring into notice that we are living in such a world which has got the unlimited potential. In India, we can say that gradually we people are progressing, but whatever in the way we are progressing, it's not like that it is in a large scale. We are progressing in terms of technology, we are progressing in terms of mobility, but still I think it may take some time. But if I'm saying that if I'm progressing, it means that 100% people living on this, even if I'm not talking about world, if I'm talking about India, that 100% people, they are progressing. No, I don't think that 100% people are progressing. Reason behind, there are number of constraints, maybe in terms of poverty, that may be in terms of social norms, that may be in terms of gender norms, where we see that more than 50% people, they are lagging behind. And according to me, either these things should be resolved or these things should be eliminated if I want my country to be at top 5 level.
Right.
Secondly, now the people, they are little bit conscious, they are aware that they have to go to the school. And we have seen that people in the remote areas also, they have started going to the school. But if we are seeing the quality of the education, whether they are getting the proper education, whether the quality is that good, because if we are talking in terms of innovation, so innovation will not come overnight. We have to see at the back, like what type of people are there and what type of education is being imparted to these people. So we even the researchers have also said, through these researches we can say that there are number of people here or number of students here, those who haven't even completed their primary education. So keeping all this thing in behind, if I'm talking about the innovation or the key areas of innovation, the very first thing is involve all the young generation. Now, how we can involve all the young generation? The very first thing is each and every young people on this earth, or if I'm talking about my country, they should get the proper education. They should get the proper employment. They should be either in some or the other training. Secondly, we have seen that the young girls or the young women here, especially in India, they are not that much tech friendly. Because we have noticed during the time of pandemic also, when we have initially started with the classes, some of our teachers were not tech friendly. So we had to give them the training. So when I'm talking about the urban areas that the teachers are not that much tech friendly, just think about those teachers, those who are in the remote areas. How can we expect them to give the online classes? So we have to make them tech friendly first. And as per the research, it is like 21.6% of the young women or the young girls, they are less tech friendly as compared to men. So first of all, what we have to do in order to just innovate or in order to get the best quality of education, first of all, we have to make this particular country we have to train each and every, you can say, young minds technologically. Technologically means each and everyone should know the basics of computers, at least. They should know how to use the internet. When these people will be aware of the technology, and when each and everyone is well educated into this stream, then we can say that we can involve the young minds. Involve the young minds means we can ask each and every young person to participate in whatever problems people are facing. According to that, we can say that people will be coming up with a number of ideas, and through this we can say just now the next generation is tech friendly and the next generation will be a better future learner.
Right.
Thank
That's
Thank
so rightly mentioned, ma'am. Uh, Now I'm going to bring up a topic where I need a thoughts from each one of you, and it is about mental well-being. Now, mental well-being is the last chapter generally that we discussed when it comes to students, because generally it's more about their marks and their assignments and so on. But COVID-19, as we know that this topic also came into the attention. So, according to you, maybe first I would like to take from Dr. Sheetal views. Ma'am, what according to you, how we should address this aspect also, no mental well-being aspect from the education point of view, from the school's perspective?
Right. Sachinji, I would say that this would be an extension of what I was talking when it came to the teachers, right? Talking about the EQ. We always talk about the IQ of the children, but we never talk about the EQ of the children. And at this present scenario, the mental well-being is very, very important for all the stakeholders, be it the teachers, be it the children, be it the parents, be it the principals themselves. The kind of stress that everybody is undergoing. So what we should be doing is, I think as of right now, the question should be about changing the mindset, the social and the emotional mindset. Yes, we do talk about a lot of innovative methods. These are excellent methods, experiential learning, going outside, like Abha ma'am had mentioned, to have 2 years in B.Ed. That is also going to be, if we inculcate such thing, that is also going to make sure that we are building emotionally stable individuals. So today, I think more than the need of developing a curriculum, which I think we are on lines very nicely with NEP, who is talking about integration, collaborations, learning through augmentations. But yes, where is the chapter on the emotional needs? Like I like to share with everybody, and CBSE has also sent various circulars regarding training and inculcation of value education, uh, uh, which many schools had started. So I think we should think beyond just giving them a moral value book, do chapter number 1, 2, 3, 4. Rather than that, having a proper curriculum like the happiness curriculum, which was introduced, which I
That's
think
right.
is really helping the children. Even I have started it from the last 6 to 7 months, and helping our children to come back to the Indian values, which are going to help them develop into good leaders, good individuals. And the key word here, I think, should be empathy. Nobody talks about empathy. Unless and until we have empathy, the love for our nation, we are just losing and giving them robots, giving the new generation, making them robots. That's it.
That's right, and I really like the honest view about the moral chapters 1, 2, 3, and that's really happens around. Abha ma'am, what is your take? How to address this?
राइट सचिन सर आपने बिल्कुल सही कहा especially this COVID has aggravated and actually exposed all of us. The lockdown has really brought the kinds of anti-social mindset, or you can say non-social mindset among the, not only among the children but even among the adults. मैं आपको सच बताती हूँ कि अब यदि टीचर्स को हम स्कूल भी बुला रही हैं, it is taking time to bring them back to our normal kind of get-togethers and talks that we used to do, because they're conscious now. Similarly, that emotional outlet is missing. Problem क्या हुआ? Unintentional, imposed, tight surveillance हो गया हर किसी का घर में. पेरेंट्स का बच्चों पे, हस्बैंड का वाइफ पे. So because they were all in the same home. So because of all these problems, एक टाइम आ गया, लेथार्जी आ गई. ना चाहते हुए भी हम में लेथार्जी आ गई. और उसके बाद zest of putting in efforts and proving and really doing it, वो हमारा कम हो गया. So इन चीजों का जो impact कोविड के कारण हुआ बहुत ज्यादा aggravate हो गया. But now what all we can do, not only to rectify the harm which is done due to COVID, but I think it is a learning. Let us look at the positive side of it. कि इसी तरह हमको मौका मिल रहा है how to work on it and improve it. मैम ने, शीतल मैम ने कितना beautiful बोला. मैम, this this happiness curriculum, as you said, वाकई it's a great achievement. We should be saying the step taken by Delhi government. And we all are actually taking benefit of that also. You know what we do, and we encourage. अभी भी जब हमारी class start होती है, we focus on starting every class with a small 1-2 minutes meditation class. We end every class, last 5 minutes, no teacher can teach. Those last 5 to 10 minutes is all meant for the teacher to have a warm-up session with the students to discuss, to talk about their family, because that needed to be taken out. When the children speak about themselves, others listen. And the lessons are being learned because teacher concludes the lesson. Similarly, mind talk sessions. अभी भी बच्चे जैसे हैं, मैं तो कहूंगी कि इसी कोविड के टाइम में ही कितने ही बच्चों ने वीडियोस बनाए फॉर यू कैन से कोविड वॉरियर्स के लिए. They could speak about their thankfulness to them. कितने बच्चों ने कंट्रीब्यूट करा, जैसे अनुराधा मैम ने ही बताया, खाने के लिए राइस पैकेट्स, खाने के पैकेट्स भेजे गए. आई थिंक व्हाट अ ब्यूटीफुल वे. आई थिंक हम लोगों ने कहीं कमी नहीं छोड़ी अनुराधा मैम, राइट? सिमिलरली यू नो टॉकिंग अबाउट सेवा प्रोजेक्ट, घर बैठे हुए भी बच्चे, मैं तो आज की बात नहीं करी कोविड, मैं तो आने वाले टाइम के लिए भी कह रही हूँ, कैसे हम सेवा प्रोजेक्ट्स कर सकते हैं, मेकिंग आवर चिल्ड्रन कनेक्ट टू द अंडर प्रिविलेज्ड और द चिल्ड्रन विद स्पेशल नीड्स, उनको रीच आउट करने के लिए पियरिंग, बडी सिस्टम, टॉकिंग अबाउट यू नो कंपैशन ग्रुप्स. अ ब्यूटीफुल थिंग आई विल बी सजेस्टिंग यू इज कि इसी मेंटल हेल्थ को एड्रेस करने के लिए डूडलिंग. When I will tell you the interact group students of our school, you know, they reached out to grade 5, grade 4 children, asking them to doodle out their pent up emotions. जो उनके दिमाग में आ रहा है उसको doodle out करो. Collecting those sheets and then discussing with the counselors, and then the counselor is reaching out to those students if we find something. Right. So you know, hundreds of ideas that we can come up. But yes, mental health हमारे, I think as heads of the schools की, यदि हमारा vision clear है, nobody can stop us.
Perfect.
Mental health can be addressed in every class, starting from assembly till the end of the session. So that is what I really want to take it.
So perfectly managed. Dr. Anuradha, your thought, quick bite, because we are running short of time now, and I have 2-3 more questions to take.
Children may not always need a perfect teacher, but they need a teacher who's excited about teaching and who loves to be with children. And that's what goes into our recruitment policy when we recruit teachers. So that's the first and the foremost thing, the heart of a teacher, you know, who loves to make a difference. So whether it was, and it can never be through a book that you can teach happiness, because happiness is a feeling. It has to be in the climate. So it has to be interwoven in the entire thing. All the staff members have to feel the same way, approachability, connect. And since there's no time to discuss it, so whether it was in offline classes or in online, there are a number of ways where parents, students, this community can be formed. Like class panchayat is one of our things where we discuss. There are groups in the class, so there is belongingness, and children make their own rules, they deliberate on it, and when something happens in the class, everybody democratically it's discussed, and then a call is taken. Then there is wall of happiness, few things I'm discussing, wall of happiness and wall of gratitude, where we put up things about the class, their achievements, their good moments, which they keep seeing and feel happy about. And then, it's about being approachable, connecting to children and understanding them, and having, a conversation. So that's how it goes, whether in online or offline. And prayer, of course, is very, very important. Thank you.
Perfectly mentioned. Dr. Preeti, quick notes on it. And then I have one more question.
I was wanting to say this since a very long time when all the panelists were talking about happiness. I feel that the happiness comes firstly from the parents with whom they are throughout the day, especially during this lockdown period. And most of the children who we were talking to and to the parents, we found that the children were feeling that the happiness and the connectivity that they wanted in the family was not the way that they were expecting, because of various reasons in the family, whatever during the corona and the pandemic time, the families might be going through. And so we oriented most of the parents and the children throughout the year as one of the tasks to keep themselves connected within. Happiness should not be dependent on one curriculum or a book or a teacher who's telling you when to be happy, but to be connected with themselves by understanding there might be no reason, but you should be happy. And this was a very difficult task to start with, because most of the teachers, to convince them what we are going to talk with the children, was also getting them little unrealistic, that how would we tell them to get unconnected with rest and be connected with themselves. They were taking word by word everything, to orient the teachers first, then to make some psychologists and counselors come into picture, then go to the students and the parents. That made the entire process a little easier. And I think till the end of the first year of this corona time, we have been able to find that some of the parents have understood that there are a lot of reasons through which we can make a day happier for our children. And that is how we are looking forward for this entire happiness that you were talking about.
That's so perfectly mentioned. In fact, I was about to take up the clue from here about mentioning the parents aspect, which you rightly covered up. Because no, even if a student wants to be happy, no, the parental pressure of bringing up the marks and lot many things crop up. Even if he wants to be happy, then sometimes not being able to balance the pressure. So you rightly take up this point about
I
the
would like
parents.
to add here something, sir. Just a
Please,
word.
please,
It is
please.
nothing but only comparison of the child every minute makes them
Mm,
unhappy.
you
That's
are
the
right.
only word if taken out from the dictionary of the parents and every one of us. I think the child will be happier. We will be more happier.
So right. So rightly mentioned. Coming to the last part of this panel, and I want to bring the very important topic from schools to, as Anuradha ma'am mentioned about the university. So I'm bringing up this query: job seekers. No, we are pushing towards that only. However, at MIT, fortunately, we have Dr. Madhukar with us, who heads the incubator cell. And I would like to take cues, Dr. Preeti, from you only on a quick bite. Entrepreneurship at schools. Dr. Anuradha mentioned, no, they are working on some other this kind of project. What is your take? No, how to put it up at the mass level? Entrepreneurship in schools.
I think there is an opening coming up through NEP 23 very soon, that children will be allowed for internships. I think that's going to be a grand opening for 11th and 12th standard children, where
Right.
children can go to various industries and have an internship at the school level itself.
Right.
Most of the children, especially when we do a career counseling, come to me running and saying, I want to be an air hostess. But when I look at the family, she might have to look after the whole family for another 20 years. And I keep telling her that the shelf life of an air hostess may not be more than 7 years.
Hmm.
That kind of an analysis and reflection, when told to the child, it
Hmm.
disheartens them, especially
Right.
when they come to somebody who would always talk to them positive. So when children go for an internship, when they go to a company, when they go and observe people working there, when they see their daily routine and the kind of an effort that the employees are putting in for a work, they realize the kind of work they're looking forward themselves prepared for. And are their abilities enough at that particular moment to join or dream for such kind of a programming that they're looking forward for? So I think internship is going to be one of the criterias where I think these kind of skills that we are looking forward for and the kind of entrepreneur skills that you were talking about can help us. 6 to 8, definitely. 9, 10th again has come vocational skills, where there's a payment for the children to be made and they can go ahead with vocational skills from 23. And again for 11, 12th, internship with vocational skills has also come up, where they have to pay a particular amount and the children will be enrolled for those kind of skills. So I think that's going to bring in the whole community uniformly together, to bring in children for different kinds of skills to exhibit in the school level itself. So
That
that's going to be a big opener.
that's perfect. Dr. Madhukar, can we have your comments on the same, please? Because no, since you are majorly involved into ESL activities, how at the university level we are nurturing, and no, probably what's the common learning can be for all of us? Your thoughts?
See, I'm quite impressed with the various best practices which has been mentioned by the different panelists, which they have been doing in their school, and especially few of them which is related with the mental well-being and experiential learning. Just now, Dr. Preeti was mentioning about the internship opportunity and vocational training, which has been a mandate in our national education policy. But at school level, I feel there are some other activities where the student can be involved, and basically these activity will help them in identifying their entrepreneurship intent. For example, at school level, maybe a kind of guest session can be organized, where we can invite the young entrepreneur, those they are coming and talking to student and sharing their success stories. So this is one idea. The second, maybe some kind of idea competition at school level can be organized, or maybe it may be an inter-school level competition where the students from other schools can also be participated. So by planning some of these activity, I think even in school level, we will be able to create a kind of environment of entrepreneurship and a kind of awareness among the student about the this particular line of entrepreneurship. Particularly when talking about Amity University, Gurugram, we have a dedicated incubation center created at the university, where we have been providing all kind of support to students, right from helping them in taking their idea to a business model, mentoring them to converting their idea into a business model, and then translating their business model into a startup, where we have been providing various kind of support, right from mentoring. We have infrastructure support, we are giving office space without charging any kind of rental. We give 2 to 3 years of time of incubation, and apart from, we are also giving funding to the student. We have Amity Venture Capital Fund. Apart from this, our incubation center is also supported by Department of Science and Technology, DST, and also Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. We've got funding from the government, and there is a government mandate based on which we are further giving funding to some of the great ideas given by the student. So currently we have more than 30 startups in the university. They are from different area. So where at incubation center, if I talk about the whole ecosystem of entrepreneurship at Amity University, Gurgaon. So we have one entrepreneurship cell which is operating at a ground level, and basically this entrepreneurship cell is is involved in creating a kind of awareness among the student, and getting connected with those they are interested, or they want to be associated with incubation center. They have some idea, or they have already worked on some idea which is in pipeline, and they want further direction on that. And you would be surprised to know that before this COVID, uh, we had an entrepreneurship awareness camp. We have almost 6,000 plus students in the campus, and we had one-to-one session in group with all of these 6,000 students. And then we had invited nomination from the student. I have received 400 nomination from the student, where then we had a separate interaction organized with these 400 students, and finally we have come up with 150 brilliant ideas from those students. So this is a way, if we're trying to connect, because we never know, in our school also there are many students, those they have instinct, they might be working on some kind of application. Because today when we are talking about the student body is entirely different what it used to be 10 years back. These they are the kind of student, those they are learning through YouTube, those they are learning through internet, and they are coming up many new things and giving us, presenting us, and we are really surprised to see, oh, you have done this. So we don't know that how many of them have started their YouTube channel, or how many of them are already into the development of various apps.
That's
So
right.
I would sincerely suggest, because ultimately your output, your finished product is our raw material, right? So I would sincerely advise you to implement some kind of this kind of activity in your school, and definitely you'll see the result yourself after some time. Thank you.
That's rightly mentioned. Finished to raw again. And just to share with our esteemed panelists, we do conduct a lot of activities regarding the experiential learning and this internship wala aspect. We, in fact, the last year we were about to implement, but COVID happens, and we do explore with the students, in part of research or even business management and other aspect. We do also support the students, to ensure that experiential learning kind of a concept is being developed in them in their, summer times and all. Please, sir, please, you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to add to this, Sachin, what you're mentioning. I would also like to extend all kind of support from the university side, right? If you want to organize any kind of session on entrepreneurship, any kind of session on innovation, any kind of session on maybe on new emerging area in education, probably we'll start talking about right from the data analytic to artificial intelligence to machine learning, or how the career opportunities, they have been changing from conventional to non-conventional careers. So all this kind of support can be provided. And I would like to mention, as far as our complete curriculum is concerned, we have due emphasis on behavioral science, where Amity laid a lot of emphasis on inculcating value and ethics among the students. So somebody was talking about the value and ethics, was talking about all these things, right? So we have a behavioral science subject, which is compulsory for students of all programs. So we have been teaching, because we believe that it is not only important to make our student a good professional, but also it is important that they should also be a good human being. So where we try to have different kind of intervention in the personality of a student, so that we can build up the character, we can build up the morale, and we can build up the value system in a student. Apart from this, we teach 7 foreign language, which is again compulsory, and we have introduced flexibility in our curriculum even before the UGC has specified. So we are pioneer in implementing flexible credit system, which has initiated interdisciplinary learning. A student of engineering in our university can opt subject from any of the area. We have 52 tracks. So the engineering student is studying psychology, the engineering student is studying the management, the engineering student is also studying hotel management, and by the time the student is graduating, the student is getting a minor degree in the current discipline. So there's a lot of opportunity to connect with the school, and where there are various ways we can help. I think Sachin can further discuss all these things.
Sure.
This from my side.
Sure. So before we wrap up the session, I think let's have a concluding one-word remark from each of our panelists, mentioning the theme of the topic, and then your one-word solution for it. Education 2025, reimagining future schools. Dr. Preeti, one-word solution. One word, anything that you want to address.
Robust teacher training.
Perfect. Dr. Anuradha. Ma'am, you are muted. You're muted. Yeah, please.
Optimism and progressive approach.
Optimism and progressive approach. Very nice. Ava, ma'am.
Liquid learning.
Sorry?
Liquid learning, sir.
Liquid learning. That's a new terminology we have evolved in this panel. Perfect, ma'am. Dr. Priya?
It should be the positive approach and the positive attitude.
Positive approach and positive attitude. Dr. Sheetal? Dr. Sheetal, ma'am, you are muted.
I would say challenges, but a lot of excitement.
Achha, so challenge with excitement. And with a concluding one from Dr. Madhukar, from your side, sir.
See, in one word, although it's difficult to confine, but I would say that there should be flexibility in curriculum with interdisciplinary learning with a blended approach.
Perfect. So that comes to a wrap up of the session. And I thank each one of our panelists for bringing so much value to each of the question, and as well as the brainstorming discussions that we had, from doodling to happiness curriculum to BEd discussion to urban forest and mindset and whatnot. With this, thank you so much for each one of you to giving your precious time. Thank you once again from Amity University, Gurugram. I am Sachin Juneja, signing out for today. Thank you.